felt this pressure coming down in my head, and I could feel like my cheekbones getting sucked in, and I could feel something, and I'm going, oh my God, I've got...
I was woken up by this bright light just in front of me. Then I opened my eyes, I saw this bright light, and it kind of disappeared for a while. And then at the corner of the room is a dark corner. There was this like etheric, I mean it's not physical, it's a giant spider about the size of my palm, and it crawled again across the ceiling. And usually when I see these things, right, it would last for about maybe at most 5-6 seconds, right?
Yeah.
But this one lasted a long time, almost a minute. It was crawling on the ceiling and back and forth. And I thought, okay, so I tune in, like, what is the meaning? And the meaning is like, things coming out from the shadow, and the veils between the conscious and the unconscious is thinning, and that's why, it's so. And then the next day, I saw it again, and this time it was much shorter, but the spider was double the size. And I had coffee with Josephine. Remember Josephine?
Oh yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I had coffee with Josephine yesterday, and then we were catching up, talking and all that, and I was telling her about this, right? About the spider, and she said that it's interesting thing about the spider, because she has been reading encountered or reading other people's experiences about the spider as well.
Oh wow.
And she said that there's this lady, a very young girl, but I'm not sure how young, but she is some spiritual teacher, and she says that the world is controlled by the spider. It's like a computer spider, and that the reptilians are, like just slightly below the spider. So the spider controls everybody's minds and controls the world and the web, and the spider is falling apart, according to this spiritual teacher based in the UK. I said, oh, that's interesting, this thing about the spider. But then, I mean, not all spiders are bad, spiders we have different interpretation, right? Any symbol always has a dark and a light. So it's how we want to see it, just like the snake, just like any other symbols, right? So it was interesting, the story. I don't know what this person's name is, but I would like to know what kind of mindset this person has to think that the world is controlled by this computer and it's a spider. Maybe influenced by the movie Matrix. I don't know.
I've not heard that one before.
Yeah, it's new, right? I haven't heard that one. But apparently there are a lot of Gen Zs, who are spiritual teachers, and they come up with this kind of ideas, and they say that they're channeling, and I don't know, I take it with a pinch of salt.
I don't know if they're on drugs or not.
And I always look at how clear they are psychologically when they claim to be channeling, right? I mean, you can channel from the ego, you can channel from the dark side. I mean, who are we to know unless we know what your mental health is like? And this is something I teach, right? So a lot of people like to learn channeling, and so when I teach people how to channel, they don't like it when I don't teach them techniques, but I go into how clear are you psychologically? Because how clear you are determines the level of information you're getting when you're channeling, what level, right? And so you go, oh, do we have to do this? It's so much work, why don't you just then you can channel nonsense, you can channel your ego, you can channel your narcissistic side, right? So clear all the gunk, and then you get a clear channel. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that you did that. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I've had a long time ago. There's been lots of stuff that's happened to me since I was a child, right? And then from I kind of remember from my early, around that 13 age group onwards, because I distinctly remember it used to happen in this house. I don't really recall it prior to that. And I used to have that paralysis feeling where if I fell asleep on my back, or actually if I fell asleep on my stomach, it was worse. But I'd go into it by sort of thinking something that was really scary for me, that had sort of took control. And and for me at the time, I remember closing my eyes and thinking of a skull and crossbones because that was scary for me at the time. But I'm consciously, like subconsciously, or no, I'm awake, but I just can't move my body.
Mm.
And so if I tried to lift my head up to wake myself up to snap out of it, it was really hard because of the pressure and everything. I felt like it was gravity holding me down. And then if I fell asleep on my back, I'd feel like I'm on that really fast. So, a ride at the show that you can't come forward, it's sort of pinning you back. And so I realized I was in this state and I would just sort of try and shake my head, like to try and snap myself out of it, because I'm talking to myself to try
Yeah.
and, like this gets to do, and I'm trying to yell, like say the person next to me. So later on, like when I was married, I'm going, help me, wake me up, and I'm trying to do everything to, but I couldn't move. Anyway, so I had a lot of fear with that. So anyway, that's another story, but I'd always had that connection. So then when my daughter was on her first birthday, around that time, I had this just real distinct dream. And I had a real urge to tell my husband about it because, he was really open to, lots of different things, just that things didn't really happen to him. And his
Yeah.
mum was an astrologer and,
Uh,
she was great. And so he'd been brought up in, that environment, but just not personally,
yeah.
you having things happen to him. So, and I said to him, I've got something to tell you. I don't know why. I just feel like I need to tell you this. And so it was the 6 o'clock news. I sat down. We had the loungers in front, opposite each other. And I started to tell him about this dream. And then at the same time, the TV went off and it went that snowy shh kind of, the whole screen just disappeared. Brian Henderson, Channel 9 News, was doing I just always remember this. And then all of a sudden, I felt this pressure coming down in my head, and I could feel like my cheekbones getting sucked in, and I could feel something. And I'm going, oh my God, I've got no idea what's going on. He said, just go with the flow. I said, I'm not going anywhere in case I don't come back because I had all this fear. Anyway, so it happened, this thing happened around about the same time for a few nights. So around that time, it's when he would go and have, a shower. So I would follow him in, to our main bedroom, and I'd just sit on the edge of the bed so I wouldn't lose contact with him because I felt really vulnerable and so like isolated and, get me while I'm by myself. I since found out that there was nothing to worry about. It was just there for me to practice.
Yeah.
It's because I had all that fear and I've gone, oh, no way, because all I could think of was, body possession and
Yeah. Yeah.
going to do all that. And I had such a fear. And
Yeah.
yeah, I just didn't understand what was around me at the time.
These sort of things, we should have like an elder who would pick up children like that, who have gifts like that, right? And have an elder look after them and kind of train them. I
Mm.
mean, these were the traditions that people used to have, like, in the old days, right? But then as we live in a modernized world, we're not connected spiritually, but then you have these gifted children and they're left alone. Like I struggled big time, right, as a child. And I feel like the more sensitive we are as children, the more the chances of us, opening ourselves up spiritually like that is very, very high. And usually we don't have any guidance. We really grapple, you know, and we find our way and it's tough. And sometimes we shut down. So I
Yeah.
also believe that a lot of people who have psychotic breaks or who are schizophrenic, these are the people who have these gifts, but they don't know how to control. And so the mind goes into this total shutdown and total, and it's a shame, because we don't have to go down that route if we had proper guidance, like an elder, like someone, right? Like if you know you have a child who is gifted, there should be a school or somewhere you can send your child to, right, where they can, work on these gifts and abilities. And I think that would make such a big difference in the world, such a big difference. And hopefully, this is something that we will enter into, right, as we move forward as a civilization, because that is so needed.
Yeah, and I think, like where things are starting to turn now, and,
Mm.
everything always goes in circles, doesn't it? And, sometimes we have to experience the ridiculous to bring back, what normal is. All of a
Yes.
sudden, normal is great, whereas
Yeah.
before we wanted to break away and have our different identity. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, how far can the band stretch?
Yeah.
So, now I think people are starting to come back in, but it's hard for us to sometimes too, exactly what you were saying about, like Gen Z. It's like it's not all of them, obviously it's not the Gen Z, but it's just the ones that are coming through now that, the information is very diluted, and we have to try and work out what's really real and what's not, and that we shouldn't be in that position
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it should be true and authentic anyway. So it does make it hard because someone with these gifts, if put in the wrong hands, can really sort of make or break them.
Yeah. And then they just, or or the ego starts to interfere, right? As they get more famous. And then
Oh,
they just start channeling rubbish, and people still, lap them up like, oh, Bible truth.
yeah, I know, and it's crazy because you've got so many influences now. Like before,
Yeah.
like when you're talking about ego, like um, yeah, like, is it the ego talking? Where's this information coming from? But now we've got the technology, with it. So we can just jump online and do a live session with such and such. And then, I know that there was a lot of that going around, with COVID, because people were just looking for direction.
Yeah.
And, there was a lot of people jumping on, and I'm thinking, what the hell is this about? It should just be natural. It shouldn't be this big show, or, is what, my partner used to say, a lot of these people are what do you call it? With big purple hair and pass their use by date.
Indeed.
Yeah. So it's yeah, it is really hard. So, but I think, we have to use our own common sense, as well. And a lot of that's been taken away from us too. People
Yes.
where they don't have to think, just let someone do the decision making. But that can get you into trouble. Whereas, good old common sense and just, listening to your own gut feeling, I
Yeah.
think will help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Easier said than done.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I were talking about this yesterday about how many spiritual people are so pro-vaccine. And she was saying, but it's very curious, like if these people promote themselves as very, very, very spiritual and very intuitive, how come they don't feel it that something is off? Like, why are they so pro? So yeah, it's sometimes it happens, right? When we are not clear, we're cut
Mm.
off, like we no longer trust our bodies, and it's completely, off tangent. So,
Yeah, I've come across a few people like that who I thought will be really, I don't know, disconnected. They can make the decisions for their own selves, but when they become vocal about it, and I just lose that respect,
mm,
because a true person wouldn't be doing that.
mm,
And I met someone recently that all of a sudden made a reference to someone that I knew. Now, I'd never met this lady before, but we had a mutual person. And next minute she's talking about, oh, such and such. Oh, well, yes, I know her. She's a Trump supporter. And I thought, oh, you've just lost me now. But it's just, I like, it's fine to think that, but to voice that to someone you don't even know.
yeah. How do you know who the other person is supporting, right?
Right. She never asked me. I think she just assumed I don't know. And I thought I would never do that. I have never done that. I respect
Yeah.
everyone else's, opinions, decisions, whatever it is, but don't start preaching to me. I don't
Yeah.
do that to you. Like I respect your boundaries, and
Yeah.
don't do that to me, irrespective of what I think.
Yeah.
So, and then when we're talking about when all the election everything came on, there's an acquaintance I have, through my industry, and she's great, and she can be a little bit vocal, but she hasn't said too much, but she just made a comment. It was just she just put up just I think a couple of words. I can't even remember, something about triumph and win, or I'm not sure. It was nothing. She didn't make a statement. She just said, she just acknowledged that obviously she was happy, but just, I think it was about 3 or 4 words. She got this whole line of comments and all these people and coming on with hate and this and that. And I can't believe that you've done this. Anyway, her comment, her reply back was just amazing. And she said, I can't believe that all these people have felt the need to jump on, voice their opinion. She said, now, I've got engaged recently. I didn't get one, the comments and the likes and things like that. Now, don't you think that's far more important than you just jumping on all of a sudden and telling
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
about my wishes, And whereas, I mean, I congratulated her, of course, and I thought, yeah, it's so true. But she didn't send it with hatred. She just said, I just send a lot of love to you.
Yeah.
But if you feel that you need to come on when I never hear from you on anything at any other time and come on and then, spew out all these nasty words, it says actually more about you than me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then kind of
Absolutely.
sent them on the way. And then all these other things I was seeing through the week, just that I would never have thought of, or
Yeah.
like from other people.
Yeah.
And that's fine. They can do that. But it's just bizarre. It's like all these boardworms came out all of a sudden.
Yes.
People I've
Yeah.
never heard from in ages.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it was interesting.
Yeah, I was scrolling through my personal Facebook, right, and looking at the comments, and I was actually quite shocked at what people were saying, like, oh, this is the end of our civilization with Trump. I thought, are these people following the real news? They're probably not, right? They're just following the mainstream that's been lying to us, and people have no idea, right?
No, well, they don't, because that ability to think for themselves. Like if they've done the investigations, if they've done, for whatever reason, and they still come up with that same,
Yeah,
decision, well, then that's fine. That's for them. But people that just jump on the bandwagon and, like, let's just add the voice, in a
yeah,
crowd, without really kind of knowing, then it's different because it takes away from the people who have done, a
yeah,
lot of their
yeah,
homework and, have taken time to, look at things neutrally just to make their own
exactly.
decisions. And
Yeah,
yeah, it is difficult time because it's usually they're the louder ones.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I don't like any conflict, like where I'll have my own opinion and I will voice it to the people who are around me. But if anyone asks me what's my opinion on Trump or Kamala or anyone like that, I just go each to their own. What does
yeah,
my what really what why do I matter?
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not going to put my cards out on the table just for you to
yeah,
attack me.
yeah.
Whether if I agree with you, great, but if I don't agree with you, whereas yeah, some people really thrive on it. They love a good debate.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, sometimes they're not even real people, I believe, they're just there to instigate and you don't know who they are, right? And
No, that's true. That's true. And I think I was hoping that kind of all this would kind of bring about, that there is so much noise out there, but what is it that you want? What's your voice saying? And
mm,
learning to sort of tune inwards to
mm,
listen. Because, if you choose to listen to all these loud voices outside, that's all you'll hear. But
yeah,
if you, try and block that out and just sort of go within, I think people doubt themselves a lot.
mm,
And, I doubt myself. Who's to think that I'm right? A lot of the time I always think life is full of learning. The more I learn, the more I don't know. But, I think there's just common sense and, just gut feelings. You got to, you come from the heart, you do what's right for you, then I've always believed you can't physically, like, if you don't have bad intentions, then, it's entirely different as opposed to someone that's, intent on harm.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's hopefully now, things will start to swing around and, all like we just said about the Gen Z, like I don't know, all this stuff that comes through.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting, right, to watch what's happening. And I feel also with the big change coming up, right, on before we hit the 20th of this month, November, we have Pluto moving into Aquarius, and that's the big energy, and that is the energy that is moving us towards the Aquarian age. And we have a lot of big stuff coming out. I wrote an article on this actually, talking about how the shadow is coming up, and if you look at your own chart, right? Your own astrological chart, and you see where Pluto is located, and that will be the main energies that will be influencing you for the next 20 years. It's very powerful. What lessons you need to learn, and after the learned lesson, what would you take with you, that wisdom, and how would you express it as part of your life purpose, so to speak. So very interesting. Yeah.
So do you do charts for other people, for people?
Well, in my coaching, I do, we look at, I use human design or the gene keys as a way to see where a person's tendency to lean towards, whether it is a strength or whether it is a shadow part of themselves. So, and also to understand how the energies flow within the system. So I do use these charts as part of my coaching. It's also highly dependent on how open they are. If they're not open, then I'm not going anywhere near there. But if they are open, then I'll use the charts, because the charts gives them an idea, right? Like, this is how you're designed, as a soul, as a person, and you have certain tendencies. And usually I walk through the process with them, like, is this true for you? Do you feel it to be true? And usually they agree, say, oh my God, this is true. I say, okay, so if you accept this part, then I'm going to tell you the other part, the not so nice parts as well, right? To fully get a big picture of how you may be operating. And again, it's like a tool that I use, like tarot cards is a buffer, right?
Yeah.
So these charts are a buffer. Sometimes it's easier for them to listen to things that comes from, like, instead of me just telling them, like, this is how you may be operating. But if I have something like an evidence, right, like a chart to show them, people are a little bit more receptive. And it's interesting also with the tarot cards. I mean, if they come to me with a counseling session, I tell them the exact same thing, they are less receptive than versus the cards, because they are the ones who pulled the cards, right? So they're more willing to accept. So these are just tools, that act as a buffer. And I'm very open to use these tools, because I feel like if it's a way forward for the client to help them to see things that they're not able to see within their own psyche, then I would use them, yeah. Shall we sign off?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. So this is Shamla Tan from Singapore signing off. See you all.
Annalena Anderson from Sunshine Coast, Australia.